212. What's up, everybody? Frank Reds right here, right now in the Dungeon Show, late night edition. Thank you for joining us off the top. And I talked about this before. To me, this is doing this particular program at this point. It's really analogous to just getting those reps in. I'm not quite sure who's listening. That's important, but it's not that important. What's important is that I build up my stamina, and when I'm inspired to talk about things, I just go and talk about it, and not necessarily overly concern myself about who's watching or who's listening. It's cool, but it's not the most important thing. All right. My name is Frank Red, and this is the In the Dungeon program. And you can hit me up on Twitter at Big Frank Red. You can also go to YouTube and check the show out there if you know what's on. All right. I have about 4 or 5 different topics I'm going to run down and talk about over the next 30 to 45 minutes, maybe an hour, depending upon how things go. But off the top, I want to talk about the Denver Nuggets, who were victorious last night over the Miami Heat, 94-89. They win this year's NBA title, championship, 4 games to 1. The final score was 94-89. And, people who get paid to promote television shows and radio shows and the game in general can get caught up in hyperbole because I love basketball. So I was going to watch regardless. This particular championship series between the Denver Nuggets and Miami probably wasn't as bad as people thought it was going to be, but it never reached the highs either. I would give it a 7. It was compelling at times, but I don't think the majority of people who got a chance to watch it ever thought that the Miami Heat was on the cusp of potentially winning this series. Even though most of the games, not all, but most of the games were really tight and really compelling and it came down to one shot. Last night's game in particular, 33 seconds to go, Jamal Murray is running a high pick and roll, and he shoots like a 13-footer fall-away shot from the baseline. And wasn't a great shot. I mean, he's capable of making that shot. He's made it before. But I think that the Miami Heat and their fans probably had a sigh of relief because the ball was not in Jokic's hands. And at that point, Miami's up 1 with 33 seconds to go. If they can secure that rebound, I think they probably win. If nothing else, they melt the clock down to the point where Denver might have 7 to 8 seconds left. But Bruce Brown, steady Bruce Brown, was jolly on the spot, gets an offensive rebound, puts the ball back in, and all of a sudden, Denver's up 1 now, as opposed to being down. And if you watch the game, then you know that Jimmy Butler had a crucial turnover to Kiptavious Caldwell-Pope, and that kind of sealed the game, but it was a close game. I think because it drives ratings, networks like to hone in on a particular player or a various theme, whatever the case. And in this particular series, the emphasis and the focus was on Nikola Jokic, the Joker, as he's known in the basketball community. Outstanding player. I think by all accounts, most people would say he is the best player in the NBA right now. I would say that. But I think it's a year-to-year proposition. It's not something that he can walk around like a belt like a heavyweight championship belt or something like that until his next fight. No, guess what? Training camp's going to open again in October, and the Denver Nuggets will have to prove it again. After never winning an NBA championship, they're going to have to prove again that they deserve to be considered as a title hopeful, because they're definitely a contender. But and right now, if you look at Vegas, they are the number one favorite to repeat. But I think that they're a long way from that. Most of the core of the team is coming back, but Bruce Brown, an integral part of their success this year, he has an opportunity, I believe, to opt out of his deal and become a free agent. A lot of teams would like to have Bruce Brown. But he's not going to come cheap. I think that he was able to really establish his value as a member of the Denver Nuggets in 1 year. Bruce Brown's probably going to make somewhere between $10 and $12 million a year. And that's not cheap, especially for the best teams that have salary cap issues, a new CBA coming in. So it's going to be tough, but the core of the Denver Nuggets are coming back, and they should be very formidable. So, looking forward to that. Now, almost immediately, when Denver won the championship, Joker had 28 points, 16 rebounds, shot 12 for 16. A damn near average of triple-double. I mean, the guy was dominant. There's no doubt about that. But people start to immediately start to talk about where he fits in the NBA's all-time list of great centers. And because I'm old enough to have seen many of the greats, I go not so fast, all right? He's a two-time MVP. A lot of people believe he deserves to be a three-time NBA MVP winner. I don't necessarily believe that. I think that Embiid was deserving, and unfortunately, his playoff performance was not up to what I think he did in the regular season, and that was unfortunate. But Embiid, actually, a real quick sidebar, he can take a lot from Jokic, because Jokic, for the first 6 or 7 years, he leaned heavily on offense, and he gave a lot up on defense. Now, he's not an all-defensive performer, but he's certainly not as bad as he was, and particularly late in games. His conditioning, his stamina has really paid off for him, and now at this point, he's at the top of his game, and it's because of his conditioning. I've never seen Joel Embiid in shape, never. And I've never watched Joel Embiid and said, wow, that guy's in great condition. I haven't. And, I mean, this guy's a great player. So to me, if he took care of that part of his game, and it is important, he could lead Philly to a championship. I honestly believe that. They got a new coach now in Nick Nurse, who's going to come in and be kind of a no-nonsense guy, but a compassionate guy who I think wants to see his players have success. Keep your eye on that. It should be interesting, but physical conditioning was a tremendous asset and benefit to Jokic. And Joel Embiid still, I think people are waiting for him to get in shape. It isn't like Harden can go, oh, look at me. Because I think a lot of people believe that he can do a lot better physically. I believe he can, even though he's a great player. So, but I want to get back to what I was talking about. People almost scoff at you if you don't put Jokic in the top 5. They look at you now like, what are you talking about? He's the most skilled offensive center in the history of basketball. Yeah, he is. I think he is. But is he better than Kareem Abdul-Jabbar? No. Tim Duncan? No. Shaq? No. Bill Russell? No. Dream Olajuwon? No. Know why? Because all of those players have won multiple championships. Not one, multiple. So I think it's only right to look at Jokic and say, you know what, you got some more work to do, big fella. You know, everybody's been paid. You've had the parade. You've gone home to Serbia. They love you there. Can you do it again? If he does it again, I think all of the quote naysayers, because I don't think there are any haters. Everybody recognizes this guy is the real deal. But when you watch Jokic play against a 6'9", essentially power forward playing center, Bam Adebayo, and he's walking him down the lane, I mean, yeah, I'm impressed with your shooting ability, but would you have been able to do that against Shaq? Against Tim Duncan? I mean, I don't think so. I don't think so. There's another name I'm going to throw out there who unfortunately got hurt in his career. But, yo, man, for those of you who are old enough to have watched Bill Walton play, if Bill Walton never got hurt, I mean, we would be talking about Bill Walton as maybe the greatest center in the history of the NBA. Because he was a great all-around player. And my whole thing is that the next phase for Jokic, to me, is actually to hit the weights. And people might say, what do you mean? You know, you're going to mess his game up. And in this era, maybe you're right. Maybe you're right. Because there's not a lot of strong defensive centers who have lateral quickness who could actually defend him on the post. He's basically unstoppable. You got to take the ball out of his hands. But, you know, when I look at the networks, for instance, like an ESPN, I don't see people who have played the game in several decades ago. You know, their analysts are literally a couple of years from playing. And they're smart, they're good looking, you know, they have excellent communication skills. They know how to use analytics versus background knowledge. I mean, they are very credible. The one challenge that they have is they have no background knowledge, a lot of them. So, if you don't have background knowledge, and it's no fault of yours because you haven't seen these guys play, how can you really talk about whether or not this era of player, like a Jokic, would compare against somebody like a Hakeem Olajuwon? I mean, Shaq is not too far removed. That's which is kind of shocking to me. I mean, Shaq was not a great defender by any stretch of the imagination. But offensively, Shaq's defense was getting the opposing center in foul trouble. And even with the less physical game that we play in now, Shaq will be a problem. One of the things that people don't talk about with regards to Shaquille O'Neal is his agility. This dude had tremendous agility. He had great footwork, and he was just powerful, and he was nasty on the court. He was everything that you wanted your center to be. But he was not a great defender. He was not great in the high pick and roll. I think Jokic definitely could have taken advantage of him in that respect. And I've been talking all day on Twitter with people about that. And I say, listen, if Jokic was shooting jump shots as opposed to getting work in on the post, I would love that. Because he's not a high volume three-point shooter. He's not. He can make them, but he's not a high volume three-point shooter. So I think conveniently some of the major networks, they don't want those more experienced, older players on those talk shows. I don't think they do. And why, I don't know. Because I think it would be valuable for them to be able to add some context that's not there as far as I'm concerned. We're more in an era where analytics is how television communicates to the viewer. And I mean, for some viewers, it's perfect. because that's what they're used to. They use analytics, statistical data in their normal lives, and it's how they talk about sports. I can digest it. I don't mind it, but I gotta have some background knowledge. So, when I talk to sports fans about eras and players, there's no way I can have a balanced conversation unless we talk about background knowledge. All right. If you want to comment on something that I've said, hit me up at Big Frank Red on Twitter, or if you're watching on YouTube and you want to make a comment there, then make sure you do that as well. All right. How does Miami get better? I think Miami, for the first time, is going to look to move some of their assets. And their biggest asset to me is Tyler Hero. I heard something today that was speaking to whether or not he can be moved right away because his new deal doesn't actually go in effect right away. I don't know. Honestly, I don't know. I just know that he's going to make around $30 million a year, and he's a valuable asset. And one player that definitely would raise the aspirations of the Miami Heat is Damian Lillard, the future Hall of Famer of the Portland Trail Blazers, who I think he bleeds red and black, but the clock's ticking, and his aspirations might not coincide with what the Portland Trail Blazers organization is trying to do at this point. And if that is the case, then Damian Lillard might finish his career somewhere else. I don't know. But he's talked about the Miami Heat being made of the right stuff, that he thinks that he could assimilate well in and be successful. And I would like to see that because Jimmy Butler could go back and be that number 2 guy. And when the opportunity presented itself for him to close games out or shine in the playoffs, he could do that also. But Damian Lillard is made for leading that team offensively and being that guy. It's easy for him. And he would make the game easy for Bam, for Jimmy Butler, all of their auxiliary players, Gabe Vincent, all of those guys. Dame would help. So keep your eye on that, because I think Tyler Hero, maybe Duncan Robinson would have to go, or the Miami Heat have some players, so they could put a package together, I believe, to acquire Damian Lillard. It would obviously have to be some future first-round draft picks, maybe a couple of picks also with 2 frontline players. But I think that deal could happen because Miami's not going to go away. I mean, their culture is too good. Their attention to detail is rock solid. I think they might bring Kyle Lowry back at a reduced price if he is not still under contract. I looked today; he's making like $38 million. I don't know if he has any more time left on that, but I like where Miami is going, but it just wasn't good enough to match up against the Denver Nuggets this year. And I'm a big repeat guy. I am. I think in a year-to-year proposition, any good team can win a championship. My Knicks haven't won since '73, so I sound, not too bright saying that, I know. But if you have the right players at the right moment, anybody can win the championship, but you got to be together. Which is why I'm really not surprised that the Milwaukee Bucks didn't repeat. You could talk about injuries, this and that. I'm just not surprised. I didn't think that they had the connectedness that I think that you have to have. You look at the Denver Nuggets. I mean, I think it's going to be like a year-to-year proposition deal. I'm excited about what the Golden State Warriors can potentially be. The Sacramento Kings, if they can upgrade one of their 4 positions, they're going to be tough. They really are. And got both Los Angeles Laker teams down there, the Phoenix Suns. OKC could make a big jump this year. So the NBA is in really, really good shape. A lot of times when some of the older veteran superstars are starting to wind down their careers, there's some anxiety around, well, who's going to take over? But there appears to be just a endless stream of talented players coming into the NBA. No one better than Victor Wembanyama, the 7'4" French kid, who certainly will be picked by the San Antonio Spurs. So you can expect the Spurs to have a resurgence over the next 3 to 5 years as well. And it'll be interesting who's going to succeed Popovich as a head coach, because he might coach 2 more years, but I think somebody's going to have to take over of that position, and it'll be interesting to see who does that. All right, my name is Frank Red. This is the In the Dungeon program, broadcasting live on Twitter. You can hit me up at Big Frank Red on Twitter. I follow back. I love to converse back and forth with people, and I like when folks have different opinions than mine. We don't have to agree. It's really about building your thesis. Have a different opinion, but you should be able to, I don't think it's too much to ask to build your thesis, though. I don't think that's asking too much. All right? The Las Vegas Golden Knights, in their 6th year of existence in Las Vegas, they win the Stanley Cup over the Florida Panthers 4-1, clinching their Stanley Cup championship with a 9-3 victory in Game 5 in Las Vegas. And I don't care if you're not a hockey fan, that's pretty darn impressive. This team has been competitive from the onset, and in their 6th year, they win a championship. That's impressive. It really is. And ironically, it comes on the day that the Las Vegas Senate passes the bill to give John Fisher, the Oakland A's owner, who is fixated on moving the team to Las Vegas, they signed off on giving him $380 million to build a ballpark that costs $1.5 billion, that has a capacity of 30,000. I would say I don't have any skin in the game, but that would not be totally true. I'm a big supporter of Oakland A's fans, and I am a major supporter of the history of the Oakland A's. So to see that community lose their team for something that they did not do, I just think it's horrible. And it's why I think, as an adult, you look at sports differently. Sports become just a diversion for me. To see grown-ups, literally wear their hearts on their sleeves for their teams, and then have their teams, their organizations, turn their back on them. That's tough for me to take. It really is. And the Oakland A's organization can talk about how they couldn't get it done with the Oakland, city council or the people making decisions on the new ballpark. That's a bunch of BS. It's not true. If you look at all of the great organizations, or the smart ones, what do? The billionaires build their own parks. They don't siphon money from cities that are clearly struggling. The Oakland community is struggling financially, and yet they were still willing to participate in the cost of a brand new ballpark by the water down by Jack London. The folks in Las Vegas, to me, This is like a tsunami, man. This is a political tsunami to me. And it's too much effort for me to root. If the A's do move to Las Vegas, it's too much effort for me to root that they would not be successful. I don't think it will be successful, but I don't live my life like that. I don't. I just know it's going to suck for fans. When you look at that city and everything that they have, they need a major league team? I don't think so. So it passes the Senate tonight. It has to go, I guess, to the Assembly, and then ultimately to the governor, who I think will sign off on it. So it's not looking good for A's fans now. And in the same breath, this does not happen if Major League Baseball is not behind it. And this gets me thinking about the late great commissioner of the NBA, David Stern. If it wasn't for David Stern, the Sacramento community would have lost their team. But he put his foot down and was like, no, that's not going to happen. Let's make this thing work. Similar scenario, not unlike Oakland. The difference is David Stern, the commissioner, had the will to support that team. And as a result, they did what they needed to do. They got proper ownership, and they were able to keep their team. And they had a lot of long, lean years. The Kings didn't go to the playoffs for 16 years? But now they're on the upswing, and now they're going to be good for the next foreseeable future. And they would not have a team if it was not for David Stern. Rob Manfred, the commissioner of MLB, part of the whatever it is on his hands also. And, just tonight, the A's fans packed the Oakland Coliseum with 30,000 fans. Kind of adds like a revolt to say, listen, don't sell the team. And I think they call it an anti-protest. 30,000 people on a Tuesday night. And I just feel sorry for them. I really do. So, if you have any feelings about the Oakland A's potentially losing their team to Las Vegas, it's becoming more and more of a sure thing. They're not quite there yet, but it doesn't look good for Oakland A's fans. That's for sure. Not right now. This might sound kind of random, but I actually want to talk about a player. When I was listening to all of these accolades about Nikola Jokic and how great he was, I started thinking about a player who, if you look at his career numbers, it's hard for me to build a thesis and slam the gauntlet down and say that he without question deserves to be in the Hall of Fame. But for those who did not get an opportunity to see Rasheed Wallace play, that's too bad. Because you look at Rasheed Wallace's career numbers, I looked at him tonight prepping for the show. He had 16,000 points. He averaged 14 points a game, 7 rebounds, 2 assists. He shot 33% from three-point range in an era in which they did not shoot three-pointers. And he shot 46% from the field. Played probably about 13, 14, 15 years. There was some controversy with Rasheed Wallace at times. Led the league in technical fouls. Kind of like a pre-Draymond Green, if you will. Not quite the same player. Was not as distinguished as Draymond in terms of accolades and so on and so forth, but had more basketball ability than Draymond Green. Rasheed Wallace, 6'10", 6'11", went to North Carolina, one of the best players in the history of Philadelphia. And, I just don't think he had the appetite for scoring. He could score, but I think he was more focused on playing defense and winning basketball games. And people are talking about the Denver Nuggets victory and championship. They hadn't won. This is their first one. Let me tell you something. In 2004, when the Detroit Pistons took down the mighty LA Lakers, to me, that might have been the greatest championship win in NBA history. You can have that conversation. The Lakers had Kobe, they had Shaq, they had Karl Malone, they had Gary Payton. Now, Gary Payton and Karl Malone were at the tail end of their careers, but they had a Hall of Fame-filled squad. And the Detroit Pistons took them down. The great Ben Wallace, Rasheed Wallace, Tayshaun Prince, Rip Hamilton, and Chauncey Billups, led by the great Larry Brown. The only coach in the history to win a NC2A championship. Took the Kansas Jayhawks, won a title with him, with Danny Manning and the Miracle, they called him. And in 2004, he led the Detroit Pistons to a to an NBA title. So, this is when having one Hall of Fame actually is a good thing. Because I think over time, Rasheed Wallace probably will get in, but I don't think it's a foregone conclusion. And this guy was a complete baller. He was a scrapper, and if he played in this era, she shot 33% in an era when they didn't shoot three-pointers. She probably would be getting up about 7 threes a game. In this era, with the kind of money they playing people now, with the type of money they're paying players now, what? And he made big money back then, but she probably would be shooting 40%, making 3-4 a game. He probably averaged about 22, 23 points a game now, if he wanted to, and if he had that appetite. That's how talented the play was. And defensively, man, this dude was a tremendous defender. Tremendous. Better than Bam Adebayo. Better defender than Bam Adebayo. If you are thinking about some of the all-time greats, I don't think Rasheed is in that category. I'm not saying that he's better than Jokic. No, I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that this is a player who was outstanding, who, in my opinion, just based off ability, was Hall of Fame level. His statistics don't necessarily speak to that, but his game did over I think a significant period of time. In the cusp of his, I'm not in the cusp, but if you compartmentalize his 13 or 14 years as a player, he had 5 or 6 years that were outstanding. All right, so if you disagree with me, then let me know about it. Hit me up at Frank Red on Twitter, or you can leave a comment when you check this show out on YouTube as well. All right, my name is Frank Red. This is the In the Dungeon program, and we're talking about, we're recapping the Denver Nuggets 94-89 victory over the Miami Heat. We're talking about how Denver moves forward. Will they repeat? Will they get too wrapped up on this championship and not ascend to the next level and allow themselves to kind of come back down to earth? Will the Miami Heat improve their team by going out and getting a few more players? Those are things to talk about. With regards to the Denver Nuggets also, I wanted to big up Aaron Gordon. Aaron Gordon is a player that I've been watching literally since he was 12 years old. Because Aaron played for the Oakland Soldiers, one of the top AAU programs in the country. And you could tell by the time he was 14 years old, he went to Archbishop Mitty in San Jose, that he was probably destined to make the NBA. And he figured it out, man. Very few NBA players figure it out. And that seems kind of casual. Oh yeah, I'll figure it out. No, it's not. When you can, that's in front of you as a professional athlete, you're young. Everybody feels like Superman. You got millions of dollars. You're in your physical prime. It can affect you. And somehow, some way, you have to say, you know what? I can handle all of this, and I'm going to listen to the people that really matter to me in my life, because they have my best interests. And seemingly, after 4 or 5 years as a member of the Orlando Magic, when Aaron got traded to the Denver Nuggets, everything clicked at that moment. And all of a sudden, his all-star arc started to happen. And the better he played, the more the Denver Nuggets won. And while Jokic is the head of the snake, Aaron Gordon is, to me, a part of that big three. And I think Porter Jr. is a hell of a player, but he doesn't bring the all-around skills to the table that Aaron Gordon does. Maybe he will at some point, and they'll be that much better. But right now, when I look at Denver, I look at Jokic, I look at Jamal Murray, and I look at Aaron Gordon. Those are the three guys that cause a lot of problems and nightmares for opposing teams on a game-by-game basis. And he had a terrific NBA Finals. He didn't play great in the last game, but he was outstanding. He really was, culminating in, I believe, Game 4 when he had 27 points. And I can't mention Aaron Gordon without mentioning Calvin Andrews, who is his agent. And Calvin Andrews and I are friends. I've known Calvin for multiple decades. And you talk about a guy who exhibits nothing but character. And in that business, to be the person that he is, to actually have the success that he has had and he's having now, makes me feel good, because this is a really tough business. And the fact that he and Aaron Gordon are still working together, and he has other clients as well, is outstanding. It really is. And I think it's a great model for other people of color who aspire to get into that business. Now, Calvin is also a part of Clutch Sports with Rich Paul. And, I want to give Rich Paul some credit as well, because Rich Paul was viewed, it wasn't his narrative, but he was viewed by a lot of folks as somebody who was just attached to LeBron James. And yeah, that's probably how he got in. But this man has tremendous vision. And he's built Clutch Sports into, I think I can't say that it is the preeminent client representation company, but it's certainly one of the top. There's no doubt about that. And to see that journey, to see his ascension, is pretty darn impressive. They had another client last night who won a championship, Kiptavious Caldwell-Pope. He won as a member of the LA Lakers in the bubble, got traded to the Wizards, and people might have thought, well, his career is over. No, this dude has come back to Denver and given them a sense of stability that they needed that veteran presence. Somebody who could talk about what it feels like to win a championship. And he did it again. Make the culminating play last night, the steal, the errant pass by Jimmy Buckets to seal that victory. So, Clutch Sports is winning. I want to big up my man Calvin Andrews. Definitely Aaron Gordon. Hey man, making an all-star team is not out of the realm of possibility next year, and as far as I'm concerned. Before this championship win, he was known for, I believe, losing to Zach LaVine in the NBA Slam Dunk Championship, when a lot of people believe he won that. I don't know. I mean, Zach LaVine is an awesome dunker as well. So, but that was a really, really close competition between he and Zach, and it's good for Aaron to be known as an NBA champion now, as opposed to somebody who lost a close dunk contest. All right. This is In the Dungeon program. I am Frank Red. Hit me up on Twitter. You got any comments on YouTube? Make sure you leave your comments. Subscribe to the channel. I believe I have like 40 some odd subscribers at this point. I don't know how many, but this is what I do know. I will not have a guest on this show until I have at least 100 subscribers. When I get to 100, then I'll start booking guests. And I know a lot of people, and some are famous, some are just really interesting, and I think they bring something to the table. So I look forward to having an opportunity to talk to people about sports, about hip hop music, about whatever is topical. I'm one of those guys who, I'm curious. I'm curious about a lot of different things. I'm a hip hop artist myself. So I got music out there. Just go to YouTube and dial up Frank Red, and you'll see some of my music as well. So I'm really, really heavily into music. And so I'm interested in talking to people who are doing their things and building their careers in a lot of different endeavors, sports, entertainment. I was talking to somebody yesterday about how much fun I had watching the Tonys. Now, I don't know when, but at some point I became really interested in theater and the Tonys, and really building an appreciation for what those tremendous artists do. I think my immaturity, as a young person, would not allow me to ever be a part of anything theatrical, because it wasn't cool. People look at you and they label you and stuff like that, and I see that really as a missed opportunity. And as an adult now, whenever I have an opportunity to really talk to kids about being themselves, and don't worry about anybody feeling a way about you, do what you feel. That's so liberating. It's so liberating, because when you look at theater, most of the time, the Tonys, there's like a couple of people who look like they came off of Madison Avenue, right? And everybody else, a part of that ensemble, look like regular people. Why? Because they are regular people. They are regular people who had an opportunity to live out their dreams. And to know that that world exists, seemingly for everybody, that's a good thing. And I think that we should promote theater and young people expressing themselves, trying to figure things out. And theater is a great way to figure things out. So I just again, one of the little sidebar things I'm interested in. I really like the Tonys. Pretty impressed with what I saw from Josh Robin, I think his name is, with Tweety Todd. I want to see that. I want to go to New York and check that out. All right. That's my theater moment. It's not sponsored by anybody, though. All right. My name is Frank Red, and this is In the Dungeon program. You hit me up on Twitter at Big Frank Red, at Big Frank Red. I'd love to hear your comments on this particular program as well. We've covered quite a bit. We talked about the Denver Nuggets winning their first NBA title in that organization's history. I believe they won an ABA championship, I believe 1975 maybe, but they never won an NBA championship. The MVP, the number one player in the NBA, is Nikola Jokic, and he was outstanding. 28 points, 16 rebounds in the final. He shot 12 for 16, and I mean, what a stage to let people get to know you all over the world. So I'm interested to see how his success is going to impact the likes of a Joel Embiid, who's going to have a new coach, and also Giannis Antetokounmpo, who's also going to have a new coach. The Miami Heat are going to, I think, actively go out and try to raise the talent level of their team by acquiring more good players. The Boston Celtics is going to be tough. My New York Knicks should be competitive once again. I mean, the NBA got it going on right now. They really do. And no, this wasn't the finals that I think most of us wanted to see. But respect the game, man. I respect the game. At the end of the day, the Denver Nuggets and the Miami Heat were the two teams left, and they deserve to be there. And, good for Michael Malone, who, if ever a coach was a blue blood, he's a blue blood. Like the Van Gundys, his dad was a lifelong coach, NBA. I think he was, I assume, yeah. I mean, yeah. I'm sure his dad, Brendan Malone, won a championship. So it's great to see Michael Malone fulfill his destiny. He really, really worked for it. So big him up, no doubt about that. And now there's a little controversy. I don't know if it's just people trying to sell, well, I would say sell newspapers, but people don't really buy newspapers anymore. I mean, they still have them. But if you look at the 49ers, I mean, they're going to be good. Let's be honest. The 49ers are going to be good. They're going to win somewhere between 11 and 13 regular season games, regardless of who the quarterback is. If it's Purdy, then fine. If it's Trey Lance, even Sam Darnold, I mean, I don't think it matters. I think that defense is rock solid. Schematically, Kyle Shanahan, I think is the best in the NFL at utilizing all of the pieces that he has. I think Deebo Samuels wants to come back of what was a subpar year for him. McCaffrey was like a bolt of lightning when he got traded from the Charlotte Panthers. I expect him to be out, to pick up where he left off last year and be great. Supposedly in some of the voluntary and mandatory camps, he's looked really, really good. But I mean, I just like to see players be successful. All right, and I mean, if you listen close enough, I think there's enough people who feels that Brock Purdy is a better quarterback than Trey Lance. Maybe he is for this system. I don't believe that he's the better choice for every system in the NFL. I don't believe that. As a matter of fact, I think Trey Lance could probably fit in more systems than Brock Purdy can. But for the 49ers, if Brock Purdy is the guy, I would love to see Trey Lance traded to an organization where he can get an opportunity to play. Now, there's so many talented quarterbacks out there. It's not as easy as you think. Maybe Atlanta could be a spot for him. Tennessee, but there has to be a home out there that's willing to invest the time and to deal with the imperfections of Trey Lance's game and focus on the thing that he does well. I don't think the 49ers are interested in that. I just don't. I think that they have a very small window of what they're looking for from their quarterbacks. And it's not like what they're looking for is asking too much. I'm not saying that. What I'm saying is that it takes a particular skill set for you to fit into Kyle Shanahan's system. And that's all good as long as you got the guy. But I think Trey Lance could prosper, and I want to see him prosper. I really do. Not because he's an African American quarterback, he's a person of color. Because while the politics of the NFL sometimes are kind of kids growing up in this era don't even really think about that. I don't think they do. I mean, when you look at the diversity of the quarterback position in the NFL, it is as diversified as any major sporting organization, and it wasn't like that in the past. And I think that there's been a real nice mix of the skills that all of the great quarterbacks bring. All of them. The best ones, I mean, the best quarterbacks in the NFL can run. I don't care what color they are. They got lasers for arms. They're big and they're strong and they're tough. So it really doesn't even matter. I just want to see Trey Lance go to a place where he can have some success. All right? I want to leave you with this. Sometimes I go on Twitter, right? And there is so many lists. Everybody has a list. But I want you to think about a particular hip-hop song that's one of your favorites that doesn't necessarily get the credit or the notoriety that you think it deserves. All right? So I'm going to leave you with the song. And hit me up at Big Frank Red and tell me a hip-hop song that maybe I'll know about the song, maybe I won't, but tell me a song that you really, really like for whatever reason. But it doesn't get the necessarily publicity as some of the more popular hip-hop songs of all time. I'm going to give you a song. It's called Looking at the Front Door. Now, for hip-hop heads, this is not a surprise. This is a great song by Main Source. Came out early 90s, late 80s. It was rapped by Large Professor, who's one of the all-time great producers in the history of hip-hop music. But Large Professor was a pretty darn good rapper too. Is a pretty good rapper. He's still making music. So, Looking at the Front Door. If you haven't listened to that song before, then that's the nugget that I'm going to leave you with. And feel free to hit me up at Big Frank Red and tell me something tell me a song that you think is also great that maybe I may or may not even know about. All right, I'm gonna do my thing. I'm gonna get out of here. Success and getting paid is a manifestation of the whole process. If you as an individual don't do things to help other people make their lives better, as far as I'm concerned, you haven't done nothing. This is another edition of the In the Dungeon program. For those out there who have checked this program out, thank you. I really appreciate you taking the time to let me do my thing. It is truly an honor to have this medium to talk to you, and I look forward to continuing the conversation in the future. If you want to contact me, hit me up at Big Frank Red, or drop a comment on YouTube about the program so if I can improve, or if you dig what I do, then that's all good as well. All right, good night, everybody. Peace.